Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Dog Waters coming back to you with another episode of Out of Left Field. And today is Sunday. It's about 12:15. Just finished cooking some breakfast and really a brunch, and I'm ready to go and share some stories with you guys. Sorry about the couple of days delay and stories, and that's because my software crashed on my computer, and I had to get another software. So I have a new software that I'm still learning how to use, but I think it'll be fine. I'm actually liking it more because it's allowing me to do things on my laptop, which means that I can travel and still record. So everything happens for a reason. That's how life is. Life unfolds as it will, and there's not much we can do about it. So to get into these stories I want to share with you guys, I was on a Jim Mallard show this Wednesday, I think at 9 o'clock. If you haven't heard that interview, go check it out. Jim's a great guy. I really enjoyed spending time with him and his audience. And so I told some of these stories on the Jim Mallard show. I didn't get into all of them. I held some of them back for you guys because you are the Dog Waters family, and I'm going to get into those stories. Before I start, real quickly, we picked up probably another 1,000 new subscribers. So to the new people, welcome to the Dog Waters family. We appreciate having you here. Thank you for your support. With that being said, let's go into the story. So the city that these stories all take place in is on a borderline of Mississippi and Alabama. Very small town, 200 to 300 people population. I'm talking about one church, no gas station, no convenience store. You got to ride a couple of miles to the next town to get gas and go to the convenience store. And the gentleman who shares these stories with me, he and I hit it off very well. I mean, for a 4-hour conversation, follow up by another day or two of conversations. Then we've been playing phone tag lately. And I'm getting ready to try and reach out to his brother today to hear some of his brother's stories. But nonetheless, just to paint a picture for you, we have this small town, and their family had a piece of property that essentially in this area what people would do is if you wanted to build a house, or if you wanted to, you had a child that grew up to be an adult, essentially they would clear some more of their land and then place a trailer on the land. So families pretty much lived together geographically on the same piece of land. Quite different from most of us who live in major cities, but not too different from some of us who live in rural areas that are members of the Dog Waters family. So you guys probably can relate to this a lot. And then in this area, there's these very, very dark backcountry roads and no street lights, just you're out in the country, and that's how it is in the country. So one of the initial stories is about him and his friends and their run-in with a creature one night. So this gentleman and his 4 friends, or 3 friends, because it's 4 of them together, are at his house, and they're playing Tecmo Bowl, which is a Nintendo game from the 80s and 90s. And if you know what Tecmo Bowl is, and you know when it came out and when Nintendo was, and you know how old this gentleman is. And so they're playing Tecmo Bowl until about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and it's time for them their friends to go home. So the roadway that they had to walk to get home had always been this mysterious roadway where people would say when they walked along at night, something would be shadowing them and pacing them in the woods. So they decided, okay, instead of letting you guys just walk out there on your own and head out down this little spooky roadway, we're going to walk you halfway, and then we'll run back and you guys run where you need to go. So they leave out of the house. They head down the driveway of the property, hit the road, and they started walking. Well, on the opposite side of the road is his great-grandfather's cow pasture, right? As the kids are walking, they notice that all the cows are kind of bunched up together, because cows sleep. When they go to sleep, they bunch up together and they stand up and they go to sleep, right? Well, as they're walking, they're observing and noticing that there's this one cow that's not with the group of the other cows. Not only is this one cow not with the group, it's looking at them as they walk. These kids start to notice this what they think is a cow at this point in time, just separated from the group of the rest of the cows, and they click on their flashlights and they start shining light over on it. When the flashlight hits the eyes shine is this kind of amberish, goldish, amberish yellow color. And so they're like, man, what's up with this cow? Why is he just staring at us? And so now you got 4 kids with 4 flashlights shining them out into this pasture, and they can get this eye shine from this cow. So They all stop and they're like, look, we need to get this cow to go over by the other one, so let's just throw a rock over there. And if we hit the cow, it'll kind of run over by the rest of them. So they throw the first rock and they miss. Throw the second rock and it drops right in front. The third rock actually hits the cow, but it's no cow because this, what they thought was a cow, stands up on two legs. And now as it stands up on two legs, it's 6.5, 7 feet tall. And so they're standing there and they're staring at this thing, and it takes a step forward. And oh my God, all these children turn around running home. I'm talking about beating their feet down the roadway, back up the driveway, and back to the house. Well, his older brother hears this commotion outside because he could literally hear these kids come running back towards the house, screaming and hollering. So he steps out of the front door with a shotgun to look and see what's going on, but he doesn't see anything. They all come in the house frantic. There's something out there, and the cow pasture is big. We thought it was a cow. It stood up on two legs. We don't know what's going on. We have no clue what's going on, So they're frantic. All those kids are spending the night at that same house instead of going back down that roadway that night. A little bit further down from there, because like I told you guys, all the families live on the same property. So a little bit further to the right from this particular house, on another piece of property, on the same piece of property, but further down, he goes over to visit his auntie. And he tells his auntie, who he was very close with, about his encounter that him and his friends had with this particular creature. Well, he goes over and he talks to her and tells her what happens. And so she starts to share stories with him about things that have been happening to her further away from them, because she's a little bit separated from them, but she's still on the same property, and things that she's seen. One evening or one night, it's about 11:30. She's finishing up doing the dishes and cleaning the house and getting everything done before she goes to bed, and she hears her dogs outside just kicking up this most crazy racket, just barking and barking and barking and barking. Her dogs are outside going crazy. She had 4 dogs, and these dogs are going insane. And so she's like, man, what is going on with these dogs? In the country, dogs tend to bark and they tend to act a fool. It could be a possum, it could be anything. But in this case, these dogs are just going insane. She finishes cleaning the kitchen, turn off the light, heads towards the front door, opens the front door. And when she initially opens the front door, her front porch light is on, so she can't really see much out towards the street because that light is on. She clicks off that light, her eyes start to adjust to the darkness, and then she can see via the moonlight that her dogs have something surrounded in the middle of the roadway. And the dogs are circling this thing. They're going in and around, and they're snapping at it and snipping at it and trying to bite it and kind of darting in and darting out, just as dogs do when they circle prey. And she takes 2 steps down the porch so she can get a better view. And what she sees is completely insane to her. And when she showed him the story, he almost didn't believe it, but he knew what he encountered. In between this circle of 4 dogs that are snipping and biting at it is this figure, or this creature. Has the body of a horse, but the lower body of a horse, but the upper body of a man. And she's trying to figure out what she's seeing and what's going on and what the hell is happening, because at this point in time, it has its back turned to her, or its tail turned to her, and it's kind of moving around as the dogs are sniffing at it or nipping at it and trying to bite it, and kind of in a defensive posture, trying to keep from getting bitten, moving his legs, moving his front legs, moving his back legs, just trying to get away. And then it finally turns and it sees her. She locks eyes with this thing. Then it takes a step with its front legs or front hooves towards her. And the dog starts snipping at it and trying to bite it and go crazy because it's coming towards her. She turns, runs back into the house, locks the doors, and calls the sheriff. Now, of course, it takes the sheriff almost 30 minutes to get there, and by the time the sheriffs get there, there's nothing there. But that's another thing that happened on this family's strange property in this town. Again, guys, I don't like giving away the names of towns and the locations of towns because I don't want any of the crazies, which I'm verified that there are definitely some crazies. I don't want the crazies going there and harassing people, and especially in small towns like this, because I probably get one of you crazies killed. You get shot trying to go on someone else's property. Another story that came from this family, that same piece of property, same town, same time frame when when this guy's a young boy. The framing of all these are encounters that happened when he was a child, between ages 9 and 15. His sister, his older sister, ends up wanting to leave the house from the parents, and they clear some of the land on their property and they give her own trailer, which is probably about 75 yards to 100 yards away from their existing home where the parents, where she grew up. But she has her own place. She's pregnant, 6 months pregnant, and she has her own kind of home that she's in. Well, his sister shares a story with him of something that happened to her. She's laying in bed about 8 o'clock, and she's pregnant, so she's got her feet elevated, and she's really comfortable eating some snacks, watching TV. And then she starts to get this strange feeling come across her, like something's watching her. And we all know how it feels to have that feeling like something's watching you, right? So she's laying in a bed, feet propped up on some pillows, completely and totally comfortable, chewing on some snacks, watching TV. She gets this feeling. She starts to scan the room right to left, and the room's not very big, but she doesn't see anything. So she goes back to watching TV, and the feeling comes back again. But this time she notices over on the wall by the doorway to her room, she noticed there's this kind of a shadow, but it's not a shadow in the doorway. It's a shadow on the wall, and it's the shadow kind of it's an oval shape like a head of something, right? But it's just the shadow on the wall, but there's no light casting on the wall to create this shadow. So she's confused as to why this shadow is there, because there's no light casting to create this shadow. And then that shadow of that oval turns into what looks like a head, and it starts to look as if shoulders are coming out of the wall, and then an arm, and then now all the way of a sudden it's a whole upper torso of a man leaning out of her wall in shadow form that is now starting to reach for her. And at first she's confused. It's like, what in the hell is going on? I don't know what this is. And then it hits her. Her motherly instinct kicks in, and it tells her that if she doesn't get out of here, that she's going to die. And she has her baby that she needs to protect. And she needs to get out of this house or else she's going to die. And that's the overwhelming feeling that came over her. And she knows that she's going to die. She knows that this thing is evil. So she swings her legs to the opposite side of the bed because she didn't want to get out of the bed closest to it. And she stands there and debates, how do I get past it? How do I get past it? And so she takes a leap of faith and decides that she's going to say a prayer and run past it through the doorway. And so she prays and runs through the doorway out of the front door of the trailer to her parents' house. Her parents hear her coming over, hysterical. You got your daughter who's pregnant, who lives alone, who's screaming and howling, running 100 yards to your house. Of course you hear it. Of course you're coming out with your shotgun. And so everybody comes out with guns, and as she's running towards them, they're running towards her. Her father runs into the house, goes in, clears the house with his weapon, looking for somebody. And when he gets to her bedroom, he notices this strange and weird thing, that on the wall, there's this silhouette, is the best word, of a man's upper body and torso, including the arm, that's engraved or burnt into the wall. But it's in the wall, and the substance that has created this silhouette is more of a fungusy, slimy type substance. It's not like it's burnt into the wall, like it's burnt from fire, but it's almost this fungus type shadow created on the wall, like an outline of this figure, but it's more of a fungusy, slimy type material. Once they all realized that this is something that really happened, because there's evidence there, they decided that she was not going to go back to that particular trailer, and that she wasn't going to go back to that side of the property. So they actually fenced off that side of the property and got another trailer and moved her over to another side of the property that was closer to them. So these people are having all these crazy and strange encounters on this property. And so the next story that he shared with me, which I thought was very, very frightening, was an account that his grandfather shared with him when his grandfather was a younger man. And I have a lot more of these to go, guys, so just buckle in, because we got a couple more of these to go. But so, like I painted the picture for you guys before, this is small town America. We're talking about dark backwoods country roads, houses kind of separated by miles and miles and miles, individual properties where families have owned these properties for years. We're talking about small town Mississippi. And as you guys know, Mississippi is its own special place. His grandfather is driving home one night, no later than 10 o'clock at night, but it's dark. And he's headed home, but he's low on gas. Now he's got about 4.5 miles to get to a gas station. And just like anybody else that I've done it a million times, oh man, I can make 4.5 miles, and I'm low on gas, but I can make the next 4 miles. That's no big deal. Well, it didn't work out that way for him this time. He ran out of gas. So now he finds himself on the side of the road, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. It's pitch dark, and he has to walk with his gas canister to get gas. So he gets out of the truck, grabs his canister from the back of the truck, and starts the path of walking down the roadway. And as he's walking, everything is going cool. Pretty much good moonlight for him to see. Nothing for him to worry about. This has happened a million times before. He's walked the roads before, and it's not a big deal at all. But as he's walking, all of a sudden, he gets this voice that comes to him in his head. And you can call it intuition. You can call it God. You can call it the Holy Spirit. You can call it whatever you want. But a voice speaks to him in his head and says, hey, stop walking right now. And the voice is so convincing and so powerful that he freezes in his tracks, because that's how clear this came to him. And so he stops walking. And then the voice says, whatever you do, don't move, and slowly look to your right. And so he stands there, and he slowly turns his head and looks to his right, and he can see something in the tree line coming towards him, and he can start to hear it, but he can't make out exactly what it is yet. But he sees this thing moving through the trees, but it's just this awkward sound, this lumbering, slow movement of a sound. And he stands there for the next 2.5 to 3 minutes as this creature works his way out of the tree line onto the road, and it crosses the road on a diagonal going away from him. It never looked this way, but it crossed the road on a diagonal going away from him. And as it gets to the center of the road, he observes this thing. It's about 6.5 to 7 feet tall. It has the head of what he described as an alligator, with the eyes and with its eyes in front of it, with teeth, with a snout and with teeth that kind of hang out on the side. It doesn't have web feet, but it has these big lumbering feet, almost like, and as it walked, it was kind of like it wasn't supposed to walk, but it was barely able to. Each step seemed like it was painful, and each step seemed like it was a task for this thing to do. So each step seemed as if it was barely going to make it. Like it wasn't supposed to be doing what it was doing. It wasn't natural. It wasn't fluid. It wasn't what it was supposed to be doing. And the upper body of this creature was muscular, but wasn't muscular like a bodybuilder. It wasn't muscular like a strong man. It was muscular like an endomorphic man, a skinny, cut up person, a skinny, muscular person, not a big, bulky person. And it slowly took its time and crossed the road, and finally crossed the road in front of him. Crossing on this diagonal, it ended up something like 25 to 30 feet ahead of him going into the woods. And so as soon as it got into the wood line, the voice in his head told him, run and don't look back. Run past it and don't look back. You have to run now. And if you look back, it'll get you. Run. So he takes off running. I'm talking about hauls ass, gone, headed past the direction where it is. And he runs until he gets to the next gas station, grabs his gas, asks the gas attendant to drive him back to his vehicle. And they drive him back. He puts gas in his car while the gentleman stays there with him. And then he drives off and gets back home. He later found out that the creature was called the Vomit. The next story that this gentleman shared with me, which is, I think is probably the best one, simply because it has a father-son dynamic to it. And I think that the father-son dynamic is something that is missing from today's society a whole lot. Or maybe it's not missing, but it's not given a due credit as it probably should be in today's society. Well, this gentleman and his father decide that they're going to go fishing. And in their area, since they don't have access to like the Gulf Coast and these large waterways, there are these things called pay ponds. And a pay pond is where you pull up to a place and you pay money and then you go fish in this pond. Well, his father decides that they're going to go fishing early one morning. Leave out of the house at 5 o'clock in the morning. They get to the pay pond area at about 6, and they have to park their car because there is a metal rod that blocks you from driving the 1 mile all the way to the pond area. So you have to park your car, get your buckets, get your fishing rods and everything else, and walk this 1 mile to the pond area. Well, the walk is similar to the walk is a lot similar to probably any other walk in the woods that you guys ever experienced, except for as they're walking, the roadway that they're walking on is kind of eroded. So there's a section of this dirt and gravel road that's eroded from rain erosion and water erosion. So as they're walking in, on the left-hand side is wood lines. On the right-hand side is small grass and brush because it's been manicured and cut down because it's leading towards the pond. And as they keep walking further, this 1 mile walk, the woods follows them all the way on the left-hand side. Then when they get to the pond, the wood line wraps around the pond to the other side, right? So they finally get to this pond. It's before daylight. They got everything set up. They got their buckets out there. They cast their lines in the water. Father and son just hanging out. The son, who's the one who's telling me the story, who's told me the story, is to the left of his father. He has with him the shotgun, the bucket, 2 fishing rods. His father's to the right of him, probably about 45 to 50 feet. He has his revolver, 2 fishing lines in the bait. So essentially it's a father and son. They're out fishing. They're within throwing distance of each other. If something went wrong, the dad could get to the son could get to the dad. However, the son is closer to the part of the pond that curves around, and as the pond curves, the wood line gets closer to the water. So the son is there, he's fishing, reeling in his lines, catching fish, everything's going well. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they hear this tree limb break or this tree break. And I mean, it's a loud snapping sound. Immediately, just like you and I, their attention turns towards the sound, and they witness and observe a tree start to fall over in the woods beyond the pond. The tree starts to fall, but it hits these other trees, and the trees support it. So this whole area of trees starts swaying left to right because they're supporting the weight of this other tree that fell. And so his father clearly must have knew something was up when he heard it. His father tells him, hey, get your shit together, we need to go. And he's like, well, Dad, why do we need to go? He said, no, listen to me, get your shit, let's go. So now the boy is grabbing the bucket. He's pulling the lines in and reeling them in. Got the first line in, got the second line in. He's grabbing the bucket, he's grabbing the shotgun. And so now his father is coming towards him as he's doing all these things. And his father gets close to him and pulls him ahead of him and says, okay, we got to go. And so they start quickly walking back this distance to the car, which is, remember, it's parked about a mile away. So pretty far distance to move along, and they didn't expect to encounter anything. So as they're headed back to the car, he can remember hearing something pacing them in the woods. And he can remember this thing coming from around from that area where that tree was, where that tree fell, and rushing through the woods to where it sounded like a bulldozer. You're just hearing things breaking and things cracking and trees falling over. And so his dad tells him to run. And so now he's running, and he's a few paces in front of his father, and his father's at a jogging pace behind him because he's a kid and he's not going to leave his son. And so as they're running, his dad is looking over. He's looking over his shoulder to try and see what's going on with his dad, but his dad's looking over into the woods, firing shots into the woods. And he fires over and over and over again to the point to where his dad asks him to throw him the shotgun. Then he starts shooting the shotgun into the woods. So something is trailing them and chasing them along, staying in the wood lines as they're headed towards the car. And this thing follows them for that first half of a mile back towards the car. And then all of a sudden it stops. And so they continue to haul ass. They get to the car, they crank it up, they pull off, and they drive out. And so when he gets home, he asks his dad, hey man, what was that? His dad didn't want to talk about it. over the years, he started to ask his mother, "Hey, mom, did Dad ever tell you about this encounter that we had with this creature when we were out fishing?" He never told his mother. He never told his wife. His father never told his wife anything either. And nowadays, his dad is in a very, very bad health condition to where he's not able to really be. He's not there like he used to be. So he doesn't have the opportunity to speak to his father. And so, of course, when parents get sick at an early age, and you lose a lot of life lessons and a lot of life memories because your parents are sick. And so, brother, I'm praying for you and your family when it comes to that, and I hope that all is well. But I appreciate you sharing these stories with me. The next story I want to share with you guys is one from when he was a kid, and he was alone at home playing Tecmo Bowl again. And it's interesting because this probably wouldn't, I don't think this ever happened in a major city because we're kind of different, but he's at home, and in this particular area, since it was so small, and I guess this is something that's pretty frequent with, I guess this is something that's pretty prevalent with small town America. They didn't lock their front doors, because everybody in the area was family. So if somebody came in the house, it was a family member, right? So they didn't lock their front doors, and they didn't lock their back doors. I could never imagine doing that because of where I grew up. We always locked doors. But in this case, they didn't lock their doors. So he's at home by himself. He's playing his video games. He hears the front door open. Clearly hears the front door open. Then he hears the front door close. Clearly hears the front door close. And so he's asking himself, man, somebody came in the house. So he starts calling out people's name from his family. He calls his mom's name. No response. He calls his dad's name. No response. He calls his sister's name. No response. He calls his oldest brother's name. No response. Calls his middle brother's name. No response. Then he starts calling the neighbors' names, but still has no response. So finally he gets up and he's like, oh man, this is crazy. And as he's getting up, he hears the refrigerator door open. Then he hears the cabinet doors all opening to the house. It seemed like simultaneously, just cabinet doors opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing. And so now he's getting up and he's walking towards the kitchen. Gets to the kitchen, nothing, no one's there. Front door's closed. He heard what he heard, no one's there. He comes back to his bedroom and closes the door and locks it because he's like, something weird's going on, and I'm scared, but I'm here by myself. I don't know what else to do. So he comes back to his bedroom, closes the door, locks it. When his parents get home, the first thing he does is run to his mom and dad. Hey, I had this happen. It sounded like somebody came in the house, and they started going through the refrigerator, going through all the cabinets, going through the doors. But as soon as I came out, there was nobody there. And his parents' take on it was, well, weird stuff happens around here, and those kind of things happen. So just don't worry about it. Ignore it, right? And that's the kind of take that they had on a lot of this stuff was, ignore it. Don't worry about it. It was nothing too bad. It wasn't nothing for you to really be afraid of. And that's kind of a lot of the cases in small towns that I've found is that once I start digging into stories and talking to people who live in these small towns, they don't really want to share, and they don't consider paranormal activity to be a huge thing unless it's something that's completely and totally out of the ordinary. The occasional door closing on its own, the occasional window opening up or something like that, is really no big deal to them. But a 6-foot Centaur in the road, or 7-foot Centaur on the road, or a walking cow, or what I think was a Dogman, or Bigfoot chasing you through the woods, all those things are big issues. So those are the stories that I had to share for you guys that are new. I hope you enjoyed them. I'm going to go back and do a little editing to this because I'm tired, and there's a couple of mistakes I made. That's just because I really am tired and I haven't had much sleep. Add a little music, just a little drop of sound, give it to you guys. Bigfoot Bonanza is coming up next. I have one more person I'm waiting on to return their story. I have the feeling that he is overdoing it, but I'm not going to pressure him. So, bro, just sitting back. I got you. Don't worry about it. It's going to sound great. We have some other things coming down the pipeline for you guys. Oh, just to give you guys an update, for those of you guys who started ordering your T-shirts at the beginning of the month, I think we had a couple of orders coming at the beginning of the month. Those who are for orders will be started being fulfilled this week coming, so they should be in the mail to you and at your house no later than, not this Monday, but next Monday. So that's a good thing. If you guys haven't had an opportunity to go out and order your Dark Waters T-shirts, I would like to encourage you to go ahead and do it. With that being said, it's your boy Dark Waters. You guys take it easy. I'll be talking to you soon.